East Coast obviously last weekend. It obviously hit our community late Saturday night and into Sunday. We didn't get as much precipitation as everybody was concerned about, nor do I think we got the winds that necessarily everybody was concerned about. We recorded locally, depending on which weather station you use, wind gusts in excess of about 50 miles an hour. We got just less than 2 inches of rain from that storm. I had no serious injuries that were reported. As far as 911 center is concerned, we were very, very busy. Between Saturday night midnight and Sunday night midnight, we fielded about 614 emergency calls, 911 calls. We did not activate the EOC. We did have our duty officer on staff, and a couple of us were out Sunday just to make sure there were no unmet needs. One of the biggest concerns that came up Saturday night, I'm sorry, was Fairhaven Hospital. They lost electric and needed a generator for their wastewater treatment plant. Unfortunately, they got their power back early Sunday morning, and we didn't need to fill that request ultimately. So they had a couple of other outbuildings that were out of power also, the snap poles and things. They managed to come up with generators to support themselves locally there. We've been working on damage assessment for the county since that time. It's been very, very difficult to get damage assessment reports in. So far, I've had 3 reported in North Lebanon Township that were either major structural damage or one that was a fire that we believe was caused by an electrical line landing on a roof. There were another 4 calls or 4 reports in South Danville Township where trees fell into homes and caused significant damage to chimneys, damage to roofs, and things like that. I reached out to local coordinators and municipalities as of Monday morning looking to see if we could identify further damage in the county. I believe it's there. We're going to need some time and some help, though, to establish that, to get those addresses and actually go out in the field and do a damage assessment. FEMA contacted me yesterday morning, I think it was, and DMVA has reported a couple $100,000 worth of damage out there. They don't have a local coordinator per se. We're planning to go out there tomorrow morning and visit them and actually do an assessment for them.
What's the gap?
The gap, yes, I'm sorry. The only disaster declaration that we had filed during this storm was from South Danville Township. Just an additional note on damage assessment, if I could get some assistance from the news here, I would really like people to reach out and let us know if they've had significant damage to their homes. And if they can't report that to their local emergency management or local municipalities, they can call my office. In fact, the number is 272-7621. And we're going to direct those calls to extension 210, which would be Planning Officer Jerry Burke. And if they don't get an answer right away, we will get back to them. We will send somebody out and we will complete damage assessment, regardless of their municipality. Email, they can also contact us by email. That would be simply Lema, L-E-M-A, @LebanonEMA.org. That's all one word. I was on MedEd's website this morning, and according to them, there's about 1,400 customers still out of power. The lion's share of those are in Annville, Fredericksburg, Jonestown, and Lebanon. There are some sporadic other places in the county. MedEd hasn't been able to really give us a timeline in order to supply or get everything back up and running. They're saying anywhere from 2 days to a week primarily. And I believe their focus is to slay the biggest dragon first. So they're trying to restore power to the largest groups of people. And there are places out there where 1 transformer's down or a pole or 2's down, and it affects 1 or 2 or 3 or 6 houses. Those will be kind of last on the list, unfortunately. Did have MedEd had an ice and water program, which they haven't used since, I guess, the mid-'80s. In that situation, they authorized certain grocery stores to supply ice and water to the community. In this situation, the Giant in Cleona and the Giant in the east end of Lebanon and Redners Market up in Fredericksburg were authorized stores to distribute that water and ice. I don't have any idea who or how many people took advantage of that program. It was offered up, the information was disseminated by us as widely as we could. Red Cross was a big asset in this whole storm. As of Saturday night, early on, they set up a shelter in North Lebanon Township. They ran that shelter 24/7. I I don't have exact numbers for you, but the number of shelterees varied from 8 to 15 typically. That included some Lebanon County residents as well as out-of-county residents. It's my understanding they actually had a couple people from Atlantic City that took advantage of our shelter out there. Initially, they didn't have enough people to justify keeping the shelter open as of yesterday, and they were going to close it down and just run shelter operations between 3 and 8 every evening until further notice. The deal was there to provide showers and meals to people who needed them. The response hasn't been there. They can't justify keeping that open, so as of today, they're going to close that shelter facility altogether.
That was North Lebanon High School, by the way.
What did I say?
Township.
Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies.
I have three. You talk specifically about trees on buildings and knocking off chimneys, etc. Does that also include water in basements?
Water in basements is kind of a gray area. We encourage people to report it because depending on how high the water is, whether it's a finished basement, whether it reached electrical outlets, there's certain parameters when you do damage assessment that they will or will not take into consideration. We err on the side of caution, and if you've got a foot of water in your basement, we'll come out and do the damage assessment and document it. If there is a disaster declaration approved by the state, that number will go into the total for Lebanon County and to the state. Now, down the road, will that actually materialize in terms of reimbursement or for damages? I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
But we do encourage people to contact us. We will, like I said, take that report, document it, add it to our list. We have to do what's called an IDR on the computer, PEMA's website, and that's an individual damage assessment. And you go in and you put, Phil, I can show you one of the forms here if you want, but it's kind of convoluted. We've got to take a majority of this information and input it into PEMA's website, okay, and then that's how they track the totals and the damage for each community.
The Lima website has the roads closed, and people are extremely interested in that. How often is that updated?
I'd have to check how often that page is refreshed. I believe every 30 minutes, I'm not sure.
Every 30 minutes?
Yeah.
And so it's up to date. And are there any roads, I didn't look on it this morning, are there any roads still closed?
Neither did I. I didn't check
Okay.
it this morning, so I can't answer that.
Okay.
It is a resource, it is an asset. However, you got to keep in mind too that when those roads are reported closed, we don't always get timely information that they're reopened.
All right.
So if you have a report of a tree down across the road, we may not know in a timely fashion that that tree's been removed.
Does an official from the township or some other capacity have to report that the road is open? Or can an individual call and say, hey, this road is open?
An individual can call, and probably we would send the police or the fire department out to confirm something like that,
Okay.
probably. But the information's always welcome.
All right.
And
Thank
it's
you.
the same thing with, we have the same issue, getting off track here a little bit with controlled burns. People call in, we put the controlled burn on the website, they quit the controlled burn, they don't call in and say, I'm done. And then 2 days later, we look at it, oh crap, this should have been taken off of there. So
Okay.
it's problematic for us, but anybody can call in.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
John.
You mentioned South Anvil had kind of emergency declaration. What prompted them to do that and not other municipalities, and what does that then generate for them?
Emergency declarations are primarily designed to allow municipalities or government to do what they have to do to get things done without worrying about the bidding process or contracts and things like that. There's actually no downside, in my opinion, to filing a disaster declaration. It protects you going forward, allows you to move at 3 o'clock in the morning to get something delivered or buy something or purchase something without going through chain of command and that type of thing. I can't tell you specifically why South Anvil Township did that, except that they seem to have sustained, at least so far reported damage, okay, the most significant structural damage on some of their properties out there.
So it's still possible others could make that declaration?
Absolutely. In fact, and I'll allude to this again, I'm looking for some help, some assistance here, okay? We got 365 square miles in Lebanon County. It's almost impossible for us to drive up and down every street as an office, as an agency, and look to see what was damaged we really need the assistance of the local municipality and the local emergency management coordinator, preferably, to just direct us that way. He said, we take it from there.
Last I understood, though, Lebanon County was not in the list that Governor Corbett
No,
made.
we're still trying to collect enough information
that
to
could come
put
up.
us on that list, okay?
I just wanted to follow up with a question. Do you think part of the problem why people are not reporting is because they think, well, it's already taken care of by my insurance? This should be reported no matter if you have insurance or not, is that correct?
Absolutely.
And maybe they're not
Absolutely.
getting that message.
That's entirely possible.